Good morning and welcome to Cowes Out the White for day 2 of the legendary Cowes Week Regatta presented by Visit Abu Dhabi. Well, yesterday nearly 4,000 sailors took to the water in sparkling conditions to kick off their challenge to become class champions of Cowes Week. We have a jam-packed day full of racing and we're looking straight to our must-do moment. And welcome to Lawrence Mead, Regatta Director, and Fiona Campbell, our weather expert. Lawrence, yesterday briefly was
awesome,
great,
awesome. Yep, absolutely. We do a customer. I call sailors customers. We do a sailor feedback on the courses and the day, and we were in the 75-80% happy range, which was great. I mean, that really was a sparkling day. 15, 18, 20 knots of breeze, bright sunshine, awesome day. Challenging, difficult, not easy. USP of Cowes Week, starting on the green, going up the green. It is difficult, but it is meant to be, and I think everyone had a great day.
Yeah, great day to start, isn't it? You're on a good note.
Oh, from our perspective, to get one day in when it's sunny and windy is delightful. Yeah. Not too much, not too little. It's a bit like the Three Bears. You don't want this, you don't want that. You just want it in the middle, which we had.
But of course, for you, that's the culmination of a year's work yesterday. Getting that first start done.
Yeah, one of the complications of Cowes Week is we only do it once a year. So you switch the machine off at the end of August, and then you have to sort of do some planning through winter. Sit there in the gales and the short days, waiting to try and switch the engine back on again. So we have one day, which is Friday, and then we have to get the engine running smoothly on the first thing on Saturday morning. So it was really good yesterday. Everything worked really, really well. Really pleased with it.
Good, sir. Okay, let's hear what we have in store then for today. Slightly different, Fiona.
It is slightly different. Very similar wind direction. A lot more cloud around. There's still low pressure far to the north of us, and that's just very slowly creeping eastwards across the country. We're on the very far south of it, so we don't have much in the way of weather, but we do have a lot more in the way of clouds. So not expecting big squally showers. However, you can see how fast that cloud is traipsing through. So we've got a good solid 18 to 20 knots wind average at the moment. What we actually don't want today is too much sunshine, because what that does is it helps mix up the air and brings that strong wind aloft down to the surface, and that could give us some gust speeds of sort of 24 to 26 knots. But at the moment it's a lovely steady breeze, southwesterly from around 250, and wind averaging around 18 to 20 knots.
Fantastic, Fiona. We'll come back to you later in the show because no doubt the wind will change. Let's now take a run down to Bembridge, and I managed to get down there to see what the Bembridge Redwings are up to. So if you cast your imagination back to 1896, the Queen, of course Victoria, would have been celebrating her Diamond Jubilee, often obviously visiting here in the Isle of Wight. What else would have happened? Cars would have been for the rich only, but there was a fairly young boat designer who would go on to found a dynasty of yacht design, and that's Charles Nicholson. And Charles Nicholson designed the Bembridge Redwing. I think it was called a Redwing then, but Joe Robertson is the Honorary Secretary of the Bembridge Club. We're based here at the Bembridge Sailing Club, and here is a Redwing. 125 years old. They look actually very sleek.
Yes, they are. So this is the second generation of Charles Nicholson design. So the original design was a little bit smaller, and they were replaced in 1936-37 by a new design, which is the design you see here today. We still have some of those wooden boats that date back to that time, to 1930s, and some fiberglass boats built to the same design that have been built over the last 30 years.
Tell us about sailing the Redwing, though, here in Bembridge, because Bembridge is notoriously lacking in water at the time, as it is now.
Yeah, so they were designed to be quite shallow draft. They don't draw a huge amount, about a metre, and also they've only got 200 square foot of sail area because you don't have that deep keel. So they were designed for Bembridge and the sands and the shallow water, and because they're a development class, their rigs have tended to go upwards. There isn't much sail area. You want to make the most of the canvas you've got.
Yes, it's technically a one design, but it isn't, because you are allowed a maximum of 200 square feet of sail, whatever it is. And however high you go, the narrower the mainsail's going to be, yeah?
Yes, exactly. So the hull is one design. They're all the same, albeit some are wooden, some are fiberglass, but it's the same design. The rig, historically, there's been a lot of experimentation in the rig. That's what they were known for. But over the years, it's become more and more standardised. There've been some great sailors that have been in the class. Jonathan Jansen and Vernon Stratton, to name two, in the 70s and 80s. So they tended to innovate, and people broadly copied and followed them. So what you've got today is that very tall aspect ratio red sail, with all sorts of gadgets and bits of string to pull.
Yes, hence the red wing.
Exactly.
It looks like a wing. It's the most high aspect ratio main cows, in fact, probably in the whole island and most of the classes as well. Is it tricky to sail?
Yes, I mean, they're very sensitive boat. They're narrow boats with that tall rig. Quite hard to control the main in heavier weather. You've got running stays, check stays, obviously back stay, to try and keep control over a main that the top of it is an awfully long way away from you. So I think they're hard to sail well, and I'm certainly not one of the people who's at the very front of the fleet. But yeah, I think they are tricky boats. But there's also a lot of people come into the class as well who don't necessarily have a huge amount of keelboat experience, and they get to grips with them. So hard to sail well, but easy to go out and join club racing.
And for the crew?
No spinnaker. Yeah, that's the one least complicated thing about them. So downwind, we pole out our jib to windward. No spinnakers. Yeah.
How long have you sailed one for then?
I've sailed one for probably between 20 and 25 years. So I started in my teens crewing, and then our family brought back into the fleet because my grandparents had sailed them. And so I've been helming for, just over 20 years.
Well, it's Family Day, the second day of Cows Week. Is it a family boat?
It is a family boat, so I usually sail with my sister and my mother. I think on Family Day my sister will certainly be on board. And that's the case for a lot of boats. A lot of people sail with family, husbands, wives, of different generations, brothers, fathers, mothers. There's very much that tradition in the Red Wing still. We've also got a facility here on the Red Wing Quay that means, relative to other keel boats in the Solent, they're relatively inexpensive to run. No boat is cheap, because we own our quay here and our craning facilities, so owners can do a lot of the work themselves.
Very good. So we're going to see a lot at the line here. It's 125 years?
Yes, I think there are 26 entered for Cows Week this year, which is good numbers. Should be exciting.
Robertson down there at Bembridge, and good luck in the Bembridge Red Wings today. They're our featured class, as are SB20. But now let's look at the trophy. Royal Thames are presenting it this time. Is that right, Lawrence?
Yes, today is the Royal Thames Yacht Club Trophy Day, so the Royal Thames team are behind us over here, in front of us, to our right. They're running the racing today from here on the battlements, and the trophy is the Newport Citizens Cup from 1886, and it's Newport, Rhode Island, rather than Newport, Isle of Wight, but being raced for by Performance Cruiser A, the big performance cruisers competing for the Royal Thames Yacht Club Trophy today.
Excellent. That's what's being raced for today. Yesterday, though, let's hear from the winners, and hear from Nick Rogers, who at the time didn't know he won the Cape 31 when he was talking to Matt Sheehan.
Perfect Cows Day. We had a great wind. It started light and then filled in just before the start, and mega course. I mean, it was all action packed.
It was pretty full on at the start, wasn't it? From my viewpoint, there was quite a few boats over at the start by the looks of it.
Yeah, it basically, the northern end of the line was against the current. The southern end had a massive back eddy, and I think the guys who sort of got themselves towards the biased pin end ended up being massively pushed over the line early, and we were one of them, and we did this kind of bailed out, jibed round, and ended up coming back round and tacking.
How do you think you've done overall?
Apparently might have won. There's a few OCSs, if not with third, which I'm really happy with as well.
And what about the boat? I mean, it looked like the day developed into a full-on foam up downhill at times.
It was.
Let's move on.
It kind of
The
got
weather,
windy on the last
as,
beat home,
Fiona said, is
actually,
a little
and
different
so it didn't
today,
really
quite a
kick.
breeze, and some of the classes that we were having on the start line here at the squadron have been moved to a committee boat. Just briefly, Lawrence, who are they? And that includes the Red Wings we've just heard from.
Yes, all of the small white group boats from Sonars down have all been moved to a committee vessel, which is going to be down towards Ryde Bank. It was pretty choppy yesterday, wind against tide, more wind today, so we just felt that it would be prudent to put the smaller white group boats down there. So they'll start down there, race down there and finish at the breakwater. We just think that's a more prudent state of play. But the big boats are going to go all the way up to Yarmouth, so the big black group boats are going to have quite an afternoon. Once the tide turns, it's going to be pretty lumpy, and we've got a couple of reaches in there for them. So when they get the chutes up, they should come flying back. And they will all finish here on the squadron line later in the day.
Excellent. Thanks, Lawrence, for update on what's happening here at the squadron. Now, Matt Sheen, of course, is our pontoon walker. Let's find out where he is.
Well, hello and good morning. It's day 2 of Cowes Week. A little bit more overcast today. We'll get on to that a little later, I'm sure. But I'm back down, actually, in the Haven. We came down here. It was the irresistible draw of the quarter tonners, and I only innocently came down here just to have a little look at these boats. We talked about them a little bit yesterday. It's a class I absolutely love, and I love seeing what they've done with them. But in the process of coming down here, I've just noticed someone that I do actually really want to go and talk to. His name's John Holt. You may know him if you've followed the Greg City Academy boats, and John is the driving force behind it. And I saw him over here, and I made sure that someone blocked him so he couldn't run away. John, morning to you. How are you doing?
Yes, not bad. Yeah, we're here with 3 boats. So we've got Coty just behind us in the Corset Sunner class. We've got Riot, which is in IRC 7. And then we've got the girls coming down to sail on Scaramouche on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Just give us a little bit of background for those that aren't aware of what you do as to what you're all about.
So we're in an ISISI school from London, and we started a sailing project about 7 years ago. We did 2 fast nets, which is a long story in itself. And then the standard of the sailing of the students involved has just got higher and higher and higher, to the point where now they're very competitive, and now within this class. And it's all been a lot of goodwill by the sailing community. The boat they've got here, Coty, was donated by Peter Morton and his wife, who are racing in the same class as them. So the goodwill is just there, and they've got really good sailors who want to go out and coach them and be with them. So they've got Nick Cherry with them yesterday and today, and then Martin Evans joins them on Monday for the week.
And it goes beyond the racing, doesn't it? Because you've been going quite a while now, and these youngsters are now grown up, and some are moving into the industry.
Yes, we've got our older students are actually have gone through the programme and gone through university, and they were sort of have done really well through that. And it's mostly in marine related, in some way related industries, whether it's engineering or media or those sort of quite big range of things. But the current crew on Coty, they really represent, I think, probably better than anyone what the opportunities are. So one of them, Jaden, has got an opportunity, we hope, with James Howells, who he's met through sailing, which is hopefully a career for him. Christopher is off to do a work placement in North Sails as soon as Cowes Week finishes. So there's kind of really direct benefits for them of being in sailing. And again, the goodwill of all the other people who run and own and sail on these boats is what really makes it work.
Well done. It's fantastic to hear. I love bumping into you at these events and hearing what you've been doing. Good luck. Bit breezier today, isn't it?
I'll be following on the rib, so nice bit of safety cover as well.
Good stuff. All right, okay. Great to see you, John. All the best. Cheers. Well, there we go. That's interesting. That's some of the crew from Riot that John was talking about. I absolutely love chatting to John about his project. It's an amazing project. What I meant to ask him was how many years it's been running, but it's a good few, because I remember interviewing him here many years ago at actually, I think it was around the island when they were sailing Scaramouche. Anyway, good to hear. Now, whilst he was talking about that, and he was talking about one of the lads moving on to go and do some work for North Sails, I saw someone who is also himself about to move to North Sails, and I saw him walk down here Hopefully he's still there. It's Ian Walker, who, well, I'm sure you'll know Ian Walker. I mean, he's got Olympic medals. He won the Volvo Ocean Race. He's been the America's Cup skipper. He's even raced an RS 400 against me. Well, of course he beat me. But I saw him come down here because he's sailing on Dark and Stormy. Now, the reason I wanted to talk to him is that Dark and Stormy is in IFC 0, and they have been a force to be reckoned with this year. And there he is. There's the man, Ian. Good to see you. Morning. Now, a couple of reasons I wanted to talk to you. In fact, we've just been talking to John Holt, and he was talking about one of his lads that's going to North Sails as part of an apprenticeship. And I thought, I know someone else who's about to move to North Sails. Can you tell us what you're up to there?
Yes, well, I start tomorrow working as
do you?
General Manager of North Sails UK. So, bit nervous, to be honest. Like anybody starting a new job, but I know quite a lot of the guys who work there, and obviously work with, sailed with North Sails for forever and a day. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, all right, exciting. So it's only a 2-day Cows week for you?
No. Well, my first 5 days will be here in Cowswick, so not in the office just yet.
Okay, now the other reason I wanted to come and talk to you about this boat is that Dark and Stormy has actually been doing pretty well this year, hasn't it? I mean, just recently you won the Round the Island race. That was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, it was a stunning day sailing, and we had a really good race with Kumbu all the way around. I guess we were very lucky. You don't often get a 40-footer winning it, and it was the day to be a fast boat because we beat the tide and had the tide under us from the fort. So, I think really the crew work won it on the back of the island with the spinnaker work, and we managed to hang on. So yeah, really good fun day out, and quite rare actually for the line honours winner to win on handicap as well. I don't think that's happened since the 1980s. So.
No, that's amazing. Now, about today, a bit more breeze today. It looks like it's going to be up in the 20s. Does that bode well for you? Is that good?
This boat historically is better in lighter winds, sort of 8 to 12 knots. But having said that, against the other boats in our class, I think should be very fast downwind. We're a bit lighter and we'll plane earlier than certainly Van Uden. So, when we've sailed in windier weather, we've done well downwind against them. So as long as we can hang on upwind and keep it together downwind, we should be okay.
Well, good. Well, we look forward to seeing it. Good luck. See you back in the beer tent a little later.
Yeah, cheers. The forecast looks fantastic. I can't believe the weather we've had on the Solent and the racing we've had this year. So yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, excellent. Great stuff. Good stuff. See you later. Well, there you go. They're looking forward to it. The trouble with, I have to say, the trouble with this job, which I love, is that the more everyone you talk to, they just make you envious that you're not out there racing. But there you go. Can't have everything, can you?
No, you can't have everything, Matt. Matt is off to the commentary boat to go out on the far end of the line. Just talking to Fiona and the wind, Lawrence, we have a certain flag up on the mast here.
We do, yeah. We've decided to fly the Y flag for all courses and all classes today. It's a very diverse regatta. We've got flying 15s up to, this year we've got fast 40s, 42s. So there's a huge range of boats, and we have to take a prudent approach to safety. So it's always easy to say it's life jackets for the smaller boats. But we just felt with the forecast as it is, and especially with wind against tide, if somebody goes over the side of a boat, you should be wearing a life jacket in that amount of breeze. And I think we've all got more understanding of that need, and we've all become more careful about putting them on. I mean, in Etchells now, it's just we never sail in 20 knots of breeze without a life jacket on, even without the Y flag. But I think as organisers, we have some sort of responsibility just to remind people that the life jackets are down below and that they should get them out and stick them on because, as the RNLI says, useless unless worn.
Quite right. So life jackets on for white group. Thank you, Lawrence.
Life jackets on for all groups, all classes.
All classes. So thank you, Lawrence. We're back to your proper job now.
Thank you.
And let's also do our proper job. Oscar Mead and myself will be back with live commentary after the break.
decide. Let you go right ahead. Back in my dreams, what you gonna do next? This is what we do best. Let us dive into the night. Going about it for my eyes, I can't deny it. Three, two, one.
Good morning then, and morning to Oscar Mead. Oscar, welcome to the platform again, day 2 for you.
Good morning, thank you. Great to be back here on the platform at the Squadron.
And everyone else, of course. J70 is our first start. It gets underway in something like 6.5 minutes. No, yes, a little bit like that. Matt Sheehan, of course, is out on the water. Matt, morning to you. He's not there. He's not there yet.
Well, we can do a little review here from the
We
platform.
certainly
So
can.
it'll be a similar case first thing this morning with the tide against. So most of the boats heading out from our starts out into the western Solent. So they're still going to be looking to be a little bit more up the beach, trying to get out of that adverse tide that's going to be flowing in from the west into the Solent. And we're watching here at J70. You can see a bit more breeze, as we talked about this morning in the Mustoe morning briefing. Bit more pressure come down today. So we'll see. So quite a lively start here, I think, as boats jostle for position and also just try and get away cleanly as we were watching the end of yesterday.
Yep, the breeze not necessarily coming up that much at the moment. It's gusty though, and you can see grey patches on the water showing gusts. And there's a J70 there with that strong running tide out by the pin end of the mark, trying to get round it. So yeah, strong tide today. It's going to play quite a factor in our coverage. Here is the Squadron, and we're just coming down to the warning gun for J70. And there it is.
Fantastic sound from those cannons here at the Squadron. Plenty of people standing underneath us, looking at the cannons, watching the start sequence. So great for them. Quite a busy start. You can see the J70s all milling around as they have a look at this line. couple of boats we just saw in the previous shot doing a back down, which is where you push the main out and reverse the boat backwards, trying to get any weed or any debris that you've picked up off the bottom of the boat. 746 there, picking up a bit of a gust. You can see the main flapping. They're not in full race trim at the moment. They're just going to be cruising around looking for where they want to start.
And they're from the Royal Thames Yacht Club, RTYC on the back there. Of course, it's the Royal Thames Yacht Club running the racing today. And we'll hear from them. Of course, we saw the trophy from the Royal Thames as well. High water is at 0146 this morning and will be at 1418 this afternoon. That's high water Portsmouth, which is the yardstick we use.
So they've got that adverse tide against them until the middle start of the sequence. They're going to have to be fighting that tide all the way to their top mark. Now, we haven't seen the course for the J70s yet, but we expect them to be heading out into the west, so they're going to have to make some decisions about where they're going to end up.
Yeah, tell you what we'll do as well. We'll have a revised schedule of the day's racing. Let's have a look at that. Here we go. The start times for J70, 10:30 as we know. SB20 straight after at 10:35. And that's race 4 already because they did 3 yesterday. Etchells at 10:40. Darings at 10:45. Dragons, Flying 15s, quarter tons all run through in 5-minute sequences. And then we're into the IRC 6 classes and Contessa 32. Running right down to 11:40, the Club Cruiser White. So that's our race schedule. I don't know if they've got a course yet up, as you were saying, Oscar, for race 4. Here it is. Go. Oh, it looks very simple.
So it's a short course today up to Royal Court, which will be the short beat. And I think they're trying to keep people out of the Western Solent, because up in the west we've got the worst of the gusts and the worst of the tide. When the tide starts to turn, it's going to get really rough over on that western side. So they've got a nice long run, short beat, and a long run all the way down into the east. And they have multiple races a day. So the J70s have a short first race and then 2 extra races out. And they'll start down by Howden Fastnet up there on the top right of the screen. So long day of racing for them, but really it's about Cows Week's about consistency. So they really want to avoid having a bad race, because otherwise they'll have to carry points over, which will really hurt them in the later patch of the week.
Yes, there was a few bad races yesterday. I think 12 boats were given OCS. So the happy chap was the chap who finished 15th, but actually got promoted to third.
There were some quite interesting results and interesting hot picks from yesterday. Didn't have such a wonderful day. So the winner out of yesterday was Celestial.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see 1668. Hopefully we'll see them here in the middle of the pack in a minute. They had a cracking day yesterday and came out on top. Definitely the way they wanted to start. But yes, our hot picks from yesterday, having a bit of a difficult day. Jelvis, the national champion, was 4th at the end of yesterday. So not quite where they wanted to be.
Yeah, but your second pick, Graham Clapp's Jeepster, running second the last time round, is in second place. So Jeepster is an eye to keep an eye out on. Jeepster, GBR 1169. Okay, 1206 we have Offbeat here. Offbeat, I think, did pretty well yesterday up at the green, didn't it?
Offbeat also one of our hot picks from yesterday, so it'll be interesting to see how they get on today. Yesterday, 17th at the end of racing, so not the way they wanted to start their regatta.
This is Powder Monkey 937, deciding to not have the jib out. There comes the jib, just being unfurled as we speak.
So 1 minute and 15 to go before the start here, and you can see the fleet bunching in the middle as we look at the screen here. They're going to start lining up, and you can see this boat just cruising up through all the starboard tackers, trying to find a hole as they tack over. There they've tacked into sequence. So all boats now pretty much on starboard, looking for their gap as we hear the 1 minute gun. Everybody's trying to find a lane, and if you can, you want to keep a bit of space above you, and if you really can, the real trick of starting is to keep a little bit of space below you, so when the gun goes, you can bear away from the wind, pick up some speed, and get the boat going, because otherwise you end up stuck in this raft of boats, and a great little cluster here on the middle of the start line as we look at it. Look at all those boats jostling for position. They all want to be in the middle of the line, because that gives them a nice run into the shore, as we were expecting. So they're going to all come in towards the bottom of shot here, towards the Royal Yacht Squadron platform, looking to get out of that adverse tide.
Yep, 20 seconds to go, and there's a few boats down here at the very committee boat end, as it were, which is the squadron, and they're looking at sailing on port, which won't do them much good as they're bunching up. 12 seconds to go.
17:38 right on the front here. Look, trying to bear away in front of the rest of the fleet. They're desperately trying not to be over. 17:40 is getting pushed right up there.
5 seconds to go.
Oh, it's 1867.
1867.
Looks like they were over at the top of the line there, far left of shot as we look at them. They're going to have to try and find a way back.
Yeah, they're just slowing up.
Now, 12:03, just going off to the left of picture here. They had a very nice start, and they've got clear air. And the first thing that's going to happen, they're going to get to the beach first, and they're going to have to tack because otherwise they'll run aground. And that's going to bump the rest of the fleet over onto port tack. You just see them starting to go over now. And now you've got a bit of a battle because as you go out on port tack, you can't go indefinitely. There we go, 12:03 in left of shot. So you can start bouncing the fleet. The whole fleet now tacked over onto port. Interesting little move from 1572. Look, right, ducking underneath 290 there. So they've just managed to keep their bow forwards. If they can keep the pace on, they'll be able to scoot out from underneath them.
It's questionable how much water they can actually call for there because they were on port tack for quite a long time, pushing a starboard tacker onto port.
And it's quite deep all the way into the shore here, so it's you can't really call water too early here on Cowes Green at this state of tide.
No, so interesting to see what happens. But a great start in the J70s as they tack their way along the shore. They're wanting to hug this shore here because of the tide. Quite gusty conditions as well. You can see them heeling over. All the crews
It's quite
right
remarkable. We look at the right of shot here. The boats on the right of shot fully powered up, heeling over, and now completely upright. Really gusty as the wind comes round Egypt Point, as you say.
It's certainly...
but a big lift. Look at the wind angle. Look at the direction. Yesterday, they'd never have been able to parallel the shore. They're almost sailing parallel to the shore up here, which, in terms of getting round this headland, is going to absolutely help them. Because yesterday, they were having to fight right up against the shore, tacking all the time. Today, they're almost pointing at the corner on their own.
Indeed. 12:06, that's the one offbeat that we were looking at yesterday. Did very well.
Had a nice start as well. They're quite well positioned here, as we said, on port, nicely parallel. They're a bit further into the tide than some of the other boats, so it'll be interesting to see the boats that are tacking in here, top middle of picture. They're really going to hit the beach here, looking to get out of that adverse tide, going to tack back over. And if you're offbeat and you're out here in the tide at the bottom of picture, you're going to really struggle to keep up as you get up that beat because the inshore boat's just less resistance against that tide.
Yeah, a lot of calling for water. So if you're walking along the shore here, you may well hear that being called out. As we have 1384 Panther in our view.
Again, really nicely positioned, but look at the boats just in front of Panther's bow. Look at them scooting ahead. That adverse tide really hurting Panther here in middle of shot. The boats on the shore, just less resistance. In fact, Panther's now worked it out. They've got to go back in. They've got to get against that adverse tide.
Very much so.
I can't see much on this buoy as we look at it, just going out of shot here. There's a little bit of adverse tide, but it's not slooshing like the Solent. You almost get a wake trail off the back of the marks when the tide is really running. Great little shot here of the J70 fleet from our drone. That's great. Now look at the difference in angles as well.
Yes,
as the boats closer to the beach have less wind, they're all having to bear away, try and looking for that power and falling into the other boats that are a little bit further offshore. So it's a real balance between wind and tide out there.
That's GBR 12 just went through our frame, Little J. Old boat, but doing very well. And a couple of boats here from the Royal Thames Yacht Club. They're chartered.
Oh.
And 743 is Royal Thames Yacht Club number 2.
Look at the difference in pressure here. The Royal Thames Yacht Club on the inside there.
Okay, well, whilst we leave the J70s tacking up the shore, we're going to come back to the start line for the next start. And that, of course, is SP20. SP20s are featured class today, so double effort on the competition, double effort on the commentary here, Oscar, because, they are featured class, the SP20s. That's a minute to go for them. Not so many as the J70s. And
SP20s had a great start, and a similar course for them as we saw with the J70s earlier. Short beat up to Royal Cork, trying to minimise that time out in the Western Solent, where the weather and wind are all going to get choppy and horrible as the tide turns. Really good run down for them to Howden Fastnet. These asymmetric spinnaker boats really going to have a great time, especially on that short leg from Royal Cork down to South Bramble. That's going to be a really lovely angle. Probably port tack jibe as they go across there.
So here we go, back to live pictures, 24 seconds to go for the SP20s.
Look at them lining up again. We've got the same thing, everyone bunching up close to the committee boat. You just see the yellow mark out the top left going out of shot. That's the pin end, that's the outer distance for the mark. And look at them pushing up. They've got 10 seconds to go. They're going to have to make a call. There's a couple of boats that decided they're early here, and they've done a loop here at the committee boat end, and they'll come back in bottom of shot here. They've slightly mistimed that, 3149. They've had to done a loop, and they're going to do a port tack start at the back of the fleet.
Yeah.
Individual recall. Can't see with the darkest sails on the front there. Boomerang. Looks like they were over. They're going to go back. Yep, main's off. Away they ease. With the tide against here, it's going to cost you slightly less if you're over in these early starts, because the tide will push you back to the start line, but you still have to turn back into it and beat with everybody else. So, interesting mix here. Half the boats coming inshore and now tacking out. Look, they're all standing a little bit further offshore than the J70s. With that wind angle we were talking about, you can parallel the shore a little bit more. It's less disadvantage to be on port tack and just sort of sit up the shore. Good jostling, though, just on the inside of shot there. Boats on the inside closest to the green having a bit of a ding-dong, trying to get closer in.
That's towards the back of the fleet, but the boat standing off into the middle of Solent, look, it's a nice breeze. It's actually doing quite well. Here we are, 3821 is Sports Boats World Racing.
They're really nicely settled. Look at all three boats paralleling each other. In fact, the boat just coming out of the back of shot there, going in for another bite on the shore, trying to reduce that adverse tide. Great pressure, though, as we look at 3821, fully pressured up. You can see the front of the main starting to flap as they try and take some of the power out, ease the sails, ease the gear as the breeze builds. And it should build all the way as they get up towards this corner on the right of picture. There's a little corner there, Egypt Point, and that's where the wind will really funnel round there, and also the tide will really funnel round there. So that will be something as they get up there. You can see them all hiking out here.
There's the drone shot from over the land.
Lovely. Look at these two swapping tacks there as they both try and stay closest inshore. It's every time someone takes another nibble in, and look, they only went 3 boat lengths, but they're just trying to stay just inshore of the next boat out there. Because if you end up right on the beach, there's no wind. So if you end up big duck coming down there for 3816, couldn't get in front of those starboard tackers as they came across. So now they did all that work to get out of the tide, and now they've got to duck and go all the way back out into the tide again. And you'll see them in a second probably take another nibble in to get back out of that adverse tide.
Yeah.
3821 coming across on starboard and bouncing a bunch of port tackers off as they go back in.
Sports World Racing.
Now they're going to be
quite
driven
a few
here.
of that now. Water, being told.
There'll be a lot of screaming as they get up
from here
onto the beach there. But quite gusty as we look at them going up the green here. There's lots of trimming, lots of hard work being done by the main sheet people in the middle of the boat, easing the gear every time they get a gust. You really want to keep a consistent angle of heel, the boat leaning over.
This is tight racing, isn't it?
Really tight. Look at it. Look at the port and starboard changing tacks every time. And now as they go to the left of shot, the Maltese boat with the cross in the middle getting pushed off.
Look at that gust on the water just at the top of the picture here. Big grey patch.
Really
for
lovely.
The lead boat, yes, going to tack onto port. Loads of room for them.
3276. Done a really nice job. They tacked here with their bow just in front. Can't quite read the sail number on the most inshore boat there, left of shot. But really nice. They've stayed ahead, so they are in a controlling position now.
3816 is Tan Gwilt.
And they go back in for even more, getting out of that adverse tide.
On starboard.
Really pushing it. Are they going to just... Yes, they're going to bounce them. So now they're going to push the fleet in, but the boat that they've forced to tack is going to be able to call water and force them back out again. So
excellent stuff for the sports boats, and really tight racing, showing off how tight the racing can be. We're coming back to the start line now with 1 minute and 18 seconds to go for Etchells. And
1407 in the middle here is Mucho Grande. That's actually Jamie McWilliam all the way from Hong Kong. So fantastic to have a overseas competitor with us for this event.
Yep. Not too sure how they did yesterday. If you've got the results there, well, they've got a much more of a knitting kind of course here.
This will be a really interesting one for them, because with the current wind direction, these lines back and forward from Royal Thames down to the Lade Mark, we're seeing this zigzagging in the middle of the Solent. It's going to be quite challenging because Etchells have symmetrical spinnakers, so they tend to run with the wind much more behind them rather than the asymmetrics where it's a lot further in front. So that'll be a really challenging day for them. But the fleet's being sent generally off into the east to keep them away from the worst of the tide-created waves that will come up this afternoon.
30 seconds to go for the start of the Etchells.
Nice little line up here. You see this a lot with Etchells. They're going to sit head to wind. 1417 giving us a perfect example. They go with the wind directly in front of them, let all the sails flog, try and slow the boat down. And just at 8 to 10 seconds, they'll pull the helm away and then power the boat up, trying to get right on the line. In fact, looks like they're over. 1417 are going to have to come a long way back to not get over the start line. Look at them bear away. 4 seconds.
Just about going to make it.
They've misjudged
2 seconds
that.
to go. Individual recall.
1385.
1490. No dramas was pretty close. That's 14.07.
Nice start there for Jamie McWilliam. That was really nice on Mucho Grande. Furthest inshore boat and the most up to speed when they got going, which is great. But now they're going to be inshore, and look at them. They're already looking for that tack off. So they're tacking out.
Here comes the Hong Kong boat.
They're not going to be able to call water because they're
No.
not close enough. So look at them bear away. Etchel's so competitive. Look how little they gave away by bearing away. They barely cleared the transom. But they're going to have to tack back here. It's going to cost them a little bit there because unfortunately they got a bit unlucky because the boats outside them all tacked just after they completed their manoeuvre. So they've done an extra tack for no reason, and they're tacking back again to go back out to sea. Nicely set up from Pulse, though, as we look at them. 782 in the middle of shot.
Lady Helmsman on pulse. 14.17. China White.
China White, last year's winner. So we expect good things from them this year. They didn't have a perfect day yesterday. I think third in results from yesterday.
No dramas on the shore there in the background, just on the left. Looking good at the moment, but on port tack and under some considerable pressure to give way to the starboard tackers as they make their way inshore. At the moment, they're punching that tide out there towards that mooring.
Really nice. Etchells go upwind so well. They're such great upwind boats, and they do struggle in reaching conditions, but for sort of windward-leeward courses, and you can see the helmsman there looking over his shoulder. He's trying to decide whether they're going the same angle. And look at the Jamie McWilliam in Mucho Grande heeling over in a big gust there, just to the left of shot. 12.09 looking very settled here. You can see him, again, the helmsman keeping an eye over his shoulder at Mucho Grande on his hip, trying to decide, are they the same angle, are they going the same speed, do they need to change the setup of the boat?
The Plant Hunter, number 53 here.
This is Malcolm Offord, didn't have a great day yesterday, was over at the start line, had to go backwards, and have had to better start here. They look quite well planted, but they are a little bit further offshore than the competition inside them. So there'll be a little bit more tide down here with 13.53.
14.09 then, in a nice position at the moment, taking the wind.
Really
Nice gust.
commanding up there, and also a bit bow forward. We can see the boats inside the Plant Hunter, 13.53. That little bit less tide, look, and the Plant Hunter's now in the dirty air. Look how much they slow down the gap between the two boats, separating every time we look at it. They're now in real trouble. They're going to have to think about going back into the shore just to clear their wind. But there are boats you can just see to windward of them. So when they go in, they're going to get caught up in that mess as well. So what do they do here? That's going to be a challenge for them.
Yep, it certainly is.
14.09, really nice boat speed here. In fact, these two boats look like they're almost tied together. They are going so much the same speed. And Malcolm there, left of shot, does have to tack off and go back into the shore, looking for fresh breeze, looking to get out of that tide.
Yes, they're all tacking back in, being put around by...
and even the leader here
looks
over his shoulder, realises the boats behind are more on the beach than he is, and so he's going to have to get in, get out of that tide.
That's Ada.
782 is probably going to go with them soon. That's Mano.
In Pulse, and that's Mano, GBR 1194.
Lots of spinnaker sheets over the side on Mano, so hopefully they'll tidy that up halfway up the beat.
Yeah, we like to embarrass them.
We do. It's just, it's easy to point out from the commentary position because we don't have to do any of the other things.
Okay, that's the Etchells away on their race course, not too far to the windward, and they'll be coming back across the middle of the Solent. This is the course now for the next class. That's the Darings. They're going down to Cowes Yacht Haven Mark as well, and then downwind all the way to Hamble Yacht Services, the top right there, and a bit of knitting back and forth, east and west, and back to the finish.
That run from Cowes Yacht Haven down to Hamble Yacht Services will be a great leg from them. They'll be able to pull the spinnaker pole all the way back and go really deep, maximising on how these boats like to go downwind. They don't go close to the breeze. They don't reach at all. So that'll be a really nice leg for them.
Okay, we're looking for Doublet, who won yesterday. Doublet
22, right in the middle of shot there is Doublet.
Deck 22.
They had a great day, and Dauntless, number 3, who's just gone out of the right of shot there. They are reigning champions from last year and didn't have the day they were hoping for yesterday, ending up mid-fleet. But 22 running away with it, Doublet. And again, look quite well set up here, 20 seconds to go. They're quite a long way forward of this line. We expect to see them bear away towards us, try and get back down a bit. Dauntless here, number 3 on the right of shot. They're quite nicely positioned. They're a couple of lengths behind the line with 15 seconds to go. Going to have to build the speed here now.
Debutant there is the boat having to turn back.
Look at them easing the jib. Look, they've got to try and sail down the line with 7 seconds to go. They're really early. In fact, they almost look over. 11 looks nicely powered up if they can time it correctly with 1 second to go.
That's Darling And
they are all
What
clear.
a cracking start by
Beautiful
Darling
start
there.
from Darling.
Yep.
And they've now got all the speed as they push on. You can see, unfortunately, just ease the gear because I think they thought they were going to be early, but they timed that really well.
Ooh, and
Nicely
look,
pressured
nice
up.
lift as well for Darling, number 11.
23 is Streak just behind them in the middle of shot here. Also beautifully powered up. Absolutely gorgeous boats, the Darings. Although they're
Ooh,
going to be
big gust.
very wet this afternoon as the sea state builds with that tide. It's going to be very wet in these boats as they sail away. Number 3 is Dauntless from last year's winner. So they need to get themselves back up onto the top spot again. And they're all heading into the shore here. You can see them heading into the beach. Quite a lot of wetted surface. There's a lot of hull underwater in a Daring, so you really, really want to get out of the tide if you can.
But look at Darling, number 11 there, crossing the fleet on port.
Look at the difference that extra speed at the start made. They were already accelerated before the gun went, and so when the gun actually fired, they popped out the front of the fleet like a jack-in-the-box.
Here's Dancer, yes. Just astern.
And look at the difference in pressure as the boat comes upright every time they get a lull. The breeze not very consistent as it comes over the buildings. You can see on the left of shot there. You're going to see little puffs on the water, little dark spots moving down to the boats. And that's what the sailors are going to be looking for, desperately trying to hook into all that puff as it comes round the corner. They're a little bit too much astern of the boat in front of them. So they're going to have to keep pushing the helm up the whole time. They're trying to stay in line or ideally just to windward of the boat in front of them, because otherwise they'll fall into that dirty air coming off Dolphin, and that'll really hurt them. You can see them there just getting into the dirty air. Got to stay up to weather of the boat in front.
And if you look in the distance, over on the right there, you'll see all the spinnakers up on the J70s making their rather speedy progress up the Solent.
They'll be in the Eastern Solent in absolutely no time. They'll fly down there on that run. Number 37 is Debutante here, just in the white hull on the right, bottom right of shot. Again, beautifully set up there. The wonderful classic lines on these hulls. And number 10, just looking out, number 9 and 10, who went back at the start line, have just started. So they had a bit of a long run back to the start line to get
Look at the gust there on
untangled.
23. Look at that. Streak. Big gust for them and a big lift as well.
And you can see the whitecaps out in the Solent just at the top of shot here. The wind starting to blow the tops off these waves. It is windy when you get round that corner. That's why most of the beats are quite short today and sending everyone off to the east to try and keep them away. Look at those J70s with the blue spinnaker up
Yes,
there.
they're
They're going to
going.
have a great run down.
Well, that was Dolphin tacking onto starboard, number 15, putting about number 37, Debutante.
Great little battle, and 23 here just tacking over as well because they couldn't quite get it. That was Streak just being forced to tack by a starboard tacker. 14, which is Dancer, pushing them back in towards the beach. You want to be that way anyway. We know that they want to be on the shore to try and get away from the worst of the tide. And a bit like yesterday, as the sequence goes on, that'll become less important. You'll be able to be slightly further offshore as you get later in the start sequence today.
Great view of that. And tacking in, let's look at this. Is that 22 there? Doublet.
It's number 11,
it is
actually. Number 11 on the shore. It's
yeah,
Darling.
that's Darling, the still leading boat. One made a great port tack start, and she's tight into the coast here.
Almost high-five somebody on the green,
Yep.
those guys. They are so close to the beach. That's fantastic to see.
Now, are they going to cross in front of 22? I think they are. Doublet.
I think they will. I
Pushing.
think they'll
Yes,
cross.
they have.
Yeah, nicely across. In fact, Darling calling them across, even if
Yes.
they weren't quite going to make it. They're going to let them go. And they're actually duck in the
Whoa,
middle
yes.
of shot there. You can see they've let them go. They don't want to be forced to tack out when they're not ready. So Darling going to go all the way to the shore here and then tack.
Yeah, Darling losing its advantage, I think, after that port tack start. We're turning a page, as it were, to Dragons. And we have...
Dragon very competitive last
Indeed.
year. Now, looking at the race course, similar course to we're seeing with the Etchells, they're going to have a nice long run from Cowes Yacht Haven down to Hamble Yacht Services. That big straight line in the middle, that'll keep them busy with the poles pulled all the way back. And then a bit of a challenging beat and run situation happening in the Eastern Solent there. But that'll keep them out of the tide. There's a big sandbank in the middle that'll protect them. So they will have a great afternoon thrashing around on the Eastern Solent.
Now, the boat we're looking out for is Blue Bottle GBR 192, the renovated boat of Royalty. And they got a second yesterday.
They did, and you can just see them here on the right-hand side of shot with the blue hull. In fact, I think the only blue-hulled Dragon out there this year. Classic wooden boat. Amazing that it's still so competitive. You can see them unfurling the jib as 20 seconds go onto the gun. Not long. It looks like 763 to the left
yes.
of shot. And pretty
Bertie.
close to being on the start line. Bertie, they had a great day yesterday. They were winners of yesterday. So they're really competitive. See them sailing down the line, trying to stay on the right side of it. Tide is pushing them from left to right of the screen as we look at it, so that should help them stay behind the line.
Ooh.
But it looks like Individual recall,
Individual,
it looks like
816.
816 was over.
That's Drecky.
Now they're in a bit of a pickle here because they don't have loads of room to do a circle. They are going to bear away inside Blue Bottle.
Someone else going back as well.
7-5, 7-6-3.
763, Bertie.
Bertie think they're over. They're not actually over, though, I think. So that's going to be frustrating for them when they find out later. But these guys untangling themselves as Blue Bottle and the rest of the... 3 boats coming back.
Yes.
I'm surprised. Blue Bottle in the left of shot going all the way into the beach here and tacking over. And we'll start to see 7-6-7 here. They'll just come into shot with 7-6-7.
That's
as
Firefly.
the first of the port tackers come out of the beach. There we go. That's a lovely shot. Look at them. You can see them powered up in 682, I believe that is.
That's ecstatic.
Ecstatic. They will be ecstatic. They are really nicely positioned as they come up the shore here. And you can see the difference in angle we were talking about from yesterday, paralleling the shore.
Look at Blue Bottle here, just advancing almost double the boat speed.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Absolutely obliterating 7-6-7 there
yes,
to their
Firefly.
weather. Just a bit more powered up, bit more pressure, shooting out from under their lee. And they've got a commanding position here because Firefly can't bear down on top of them.
Lovely looking boats, aren't they? Very clean, overlapping jib.
Absolutely gorgeous, classic lines. But they will be very wet this afternoon.
Yeah,
when
they
the
will.
tide turns, the water will be pouring over them, and the bow person will be pumping furiously, keeping the water out of the boat. I'm not sure they've allowed electric pumps in Dragons yet, but I'm open to be corrected on that.
Well, it looks like Blue Bottle has made a good start and is pushing its way along the Solent. Real pointing pretty high there. That's just a top shot.
Look at the difference in
Yes.
angles here, and we've got some boats pushing right up onto the beach on the left of shot here, which are going to be in less tide than the boats out on the right. So you really want to be thinking, in fact, 7-6-3 here at bottom of shot, going back in to get away from that adverse
Bertie.
tide as they go upwind. Bertie recovering actually nicely from his over the start line.
You can see the gusts on the water, those grey patches. There's a nice close shot of Drecky, GBR 816.
You can see how much the boat is heeling over and then coming upright every time they get a gust. It's so unstable as they go up this beat. Looking all the time for that pressure. You can see them easing the gear every time they get a gust, trying to keep the boat as level as possible for the maximum power, maximum speed. Beautiful shots, though, as we come alongside them. See them all hiking out. The more weight you get out to the weather side, the faster you go. So it's a real how long can you feel the pain sometimes going upwind.
Blue Bottle just heeling over in a nice gust.
Blue Bottle going really fast. We were on board with Ecstatic before, and they were a lot further off the transom. So they are. You can see them actually gaining inch by inch as we look over to them. And are they going to cross? They are going to cross Ecstatic, so they have done a wonderful job. That bit less tide really helping them as they're on the beach, absolutely flying up the beach there, Blue Bottle.
But 767 Firefly is in trouble there, just on the left of our screen. They're going to have to tack.
They are
as
not
they
going to
go.
cross, and they get bumped off. And in fact, Blue Bottle goes with them to cover off to stay on the shoreline. Look at them, they're all now going back into it. No one wants to be the furthest offshore boat here.
Not a good tack by Blue Bottle there. They had caught a gust, and it really heeled them over and slowed them right up. Look.
Hardly moving. Look at them. They've absolutely stalled in that tack, as you say. In fact, the
Mainsail
main's
flapping away.
eased, yeah. They've really got to get the pace on here because as they come back out, although they've got a bit of control because don't forget they're on starboard tack, so the boat inside them, 682, is not going to be able to tack over until they need water. So Blue Bottle here can drive Ecstatic all the way to the beach if they want to before Ecstatic can call for water.
Exciting racing then there for the Dragons. We're moving back to the start line to cover the Flying 15s with 1 minute and 10 seconds to go. This is where we have to get round the names of these boats.
Yeah.
Folly and Vida.
Much longer sail numbers in the Flying 15s, but a similar course and slightly different. You can see that instead of having that long straight line across the middle of the course that we were looking at before, they've got a real kink and they go all the way up to the hillhead mark, which is much more closer to the Calshot spit, which is top left of screen. So they're going to have an interesting run because as they come down, symmetrical spinnakers again, a bit like the Dragons and Etchells we were talking about before, but they're going to have to let the pole all the way forward as they go up for that hillhead mark.
Smallest class here, just 2 people aboard. As we said yesterday, Upper Fox, the famous designer based here in Cowes, penned the Flying 15s and many other classes as well, and he taught the Royals to sail, and passed away some 50 years ago. But the Flying 15s counting down there, 18 seconds to go. Let's have a look. 3969 is Cruise Missile.
Cruise Missile looking a little bit close to the line here, and 3819 right in the middle of shot there. They're very comfortably. They can control 3969. In fact, they could come up a little bit and almost push them over if they felt so inclined.
gun.
But they're very, very
Individual.
polite. I think that's 3824 who was over. In fact, they think it too. It looks like they're coming back.
Over the moon.
Jibs, ease, they're not going to be over
No.
the moon about that. Now they've got to find a little gap here to bear away. You can see them. They do make a little slot. There we go. They're going to make it back to the start. In fact, 2 boats coming back. I'm not sure the second boat here was over, but
3819 in our foreground here, which was the one we were mentioning. And, well, they're looking pretty good actually there, although they tacked onto port and they're going to have to duck now behind 3654.
crews in these boats are going to have a very physical afternoon. Not only are they very wet, they're kept upright by hiking out. You put your feet under some straps and you lean out the side of the boat, and it makes such a difference to performance. So it's really going to be feel the pain and hike as hard as you can for as long as you can, especially in those latter parts of the course in the Eastern Solent we were looking at on the course card earlier.
This is a bit like Port Starboard 101 here, isn't it? It's all repeating, yes. And quite gusty as they come through.
Really gusty. And look at the difference in angles you can see as the pressure comes on. The boats are being able to sail closer to the wind with more pressure in the sails.
This is Flashback 3819. Flashback.
Nicely positioned here, Flashback. Flashback. It is 2 Fs, is it?
Yes, it is.
Excellent.
And they're just downwind of Fabulous.
Fantastic. We're all nicely positioned, but in here you can see 3940 right on the inside.
Forced family fun.
Forced family fun.
Oh, there's a story there, isn't there?
But they're forced family fun, again, that little bit closer to the beach. If they can stay and keep their lane above Flashback,
yes,
they will be able to sit very comfortably in there and have a little bit less tide. But it looks like they're struggling a little bit for wind. They're heeling over and coming upright a lot more than the other boats out to sea of them.
Well, it's family day and they're doing well. Forced family fun, 3940. We'll keep an eye on those to see how they do on the rest of the day and the results, of course, as well. Here's the top shot looking at them. Now, this is actually a bit better positioning shot. You can see they're a little bit farther apart. The cameras, of course, foreshorten the distances.
Exactly.
So, actually,
they're
forced
very
family
nicely
fun is a
positioned on the
very
left
good
there.
position, yeah.
But if you're this boat out on the right-hand side of shot, you really want to be starting to think about tacking over and getting back into the beach a bit, because the difference in tide as we look at this screen between the leftmost and rightmost boat is going to be huge.
Yeah, there's a big gust coming down from Egypt Point.
We can see
hitting
top
them.
of shot there was Medallia, the round-the-world sailing boat, and she's lying facing almost due west, so the tide is flooding back across from that side of the Solent.
3824. Over the moon, just tacking onto starboard.
Now, they went back at the start, don't forget, so they have got a bit of catching up to do as they come back up to the back of the fleet. Going to have to work doubly hard, double down here to catch up and get back into contention.
Okay, well, we're going to keep an eye out for forced family fun as they make their way towards Egypt Point and their first mark. Whoa!
Close.
Yes, that was a big duck, wasn't it?
Force Family Fun actually came second yesterday, so they're having a really good start to their regatta. A really promising first beat from them on day 2.
Is this Fabulous? Or Fabulous 4090, the newest
And
boat
again,
on the fleet.
looking for that less tide, tacking back in again. Everybody pushing back into the beach. I think Force Family Fun is top right of screen as we look at them. I expect them to tack over just to cover Fabulous, who's already heading back to the shore.
Nice in the flying 15s, yeah.
They're going to have a great... That Spinnaker run will be fantastic for them.
Yes, it is. Right, we're back at a minute and a half to go to the next start here, the quarter tonners, and not so many of them. The quarter tonner has been a great resurrection over the past sort of 10, 15 years in quarter tonners. They went in the last century kind of design, very much an adaptation of a rule for quarter tonner, and quite a wet boat to sail.
A really interesting course here. Look at the difference.
Yes.
We're not going to see them go anywhere near the beach here because they all want to go across the Solent. So they're going to just start, probably, if they can, they probably want to start on port tack and sail straight out across the Solent, not worrying about any of that going up the beach bananas that we've been watching for the last couple of starts.
Yeah, very different course for them. Here are the quarter tonners. That's Wasp in our right-hand side.
They're beautifully finished, these boats, as you say, lovingly restored by the class over the last 10 years. That's
Bullet.
Bullet. I believe is Louise Morton.
I think it is.
Did well yesterday. Bullet, the winners of yesterday's racing, so doing very well.
Can't quite see the
can't see
helm.
Louise's signature white cap that she always wears. So here we go with 18 seconds to go. Now,
That's
it'll
the
be
other
really
bullet.
interesting to see here whether these guys try and start with a port tack, because it makes a lot of sense to get out into the middle of the Solent. Who's that in the middle? 3090 on port. Looking way early, 3090. definitely,
Individual equal for
definitely
Coat.
over.
Yes.
They're going to have to now, yep, there they go, easing the gear. You can see left of shot, trying to ease the main, bear away. Quite small rudders on some of these boats, so you just saw they sort of tried to bear away and then couldn't quite make it.
There's a French boat there, 8214 Protis, made a good start, but this is Bullet. 7775. We've got Bullet and Bullet.
This is Louise Morton, 7775. You can see the white cap of Louise helming there at the back. Nicely set up there, although you can see as the gusts come on, the main starts to inside out. They're looking to reduce the power in the sail, but not consistent pressure at all for them. And there's a tight squeeze. Look at the boat squeezing around the front. Can't see the boat number on this one, unfortunately. It is T.
Brutus. There's the other Bullet. Bullet.
Now, having said they'd go off into the middle of the Solent,
they're now curse of the commentator.
In fact, no, they are tacking now again. They're going to go out onto that port tack. They're not going to hit the beach as hard as we were watching with the J70s earlier, for example. Just don't need to because their top mark is further out to the right. You don't have quite the same. They'll have to cross the tide at some point in this beach. They're going to have to make it across the channel, which is where the tide will be flowing the strongest for the longest.
So, bit of a disparaging thought amongst the tacticians here in the quarter tonners. Actually, of course, heading out that way, they've seen everyone else going up the tide, less tide coast, and they're tacking back in on starboard. But here they come.
It's still going to be a case here as they go up this beat that you want to be closest to the bottom of screen as we're looking at it. The closest to the bottom of the screen will have less tide for the longest. So you still want to be to the weather side of these boats as they sail up there.
And this boat here, which we're seeing on the right-hand side on starboard tack, was the one that went farthest out towards the mainland, and it hasn't paid off at all.
Look how it's cost them, yeah. All these boats that came into the squadron as we then tacked over onto the shore, onto port tack, all paralleling themselves here. They're trying to find a nice lane, clear air, stay ahead of each other, make sure that they're not getting into anyone else's, the dirty air coming off the back of the sails.
Pacifist here.
You can get up to speed here. You can live in a lane, as they call it. Stay alive with Louise there leading Pacifist. Look at the pressure. Louise looking, she's going to tack round that navigation mark, going back inshore, trying to get out of that tide. She wants to be furthest to the south here, which is closest to the island shore.
Here becoming another port starboard here. Louise Morton with the advantage on starboard, and they're going to put them all about.
Lovely manoeuvre there as well. That was a very clean tack. Didn't lose much speed at all. Going to cross, not going to be able to bump the other boats, a little bit too far ahead in fact, able to make her own decision and choose to go back inshore without any need to have a fight. Ooh.
Hello, Karina. Pacifist goes
Again,
into its tack.
We're starting to see the boats fighting it out to be the southerly-most boat, to be the one out of the tide. Not a good tack there, big over rotation. You see the helm having to push the helm back over again to bring the boat back onto the wind. Great little boats. They're like little mini yachts. They're fantastic.
Pacifist on starboard. The boat behind, the Spanish one, having to...
No, I think the Spanish boat went back at the start, so they've done really well to get back into this. Yeah. They really hit the island shore that we're looking at in the background to get out of that tide, and you can just see bottom left of shot is the last boat who went back. So 2 boats returned. I think there was only 1 over, though, so one of those will be very frustrated at the end of the day when they find out they didn't need to do all that extra sailing and extra work. Who is that with the wood hull? I can't quite read the sail number, but really nicely positioned. Look at the angle as they come back out of the Solent, almost paralleling the shoreline, minimizing the number of tacks that they need to do.
That's 8214, the French one. Well, that's Protis.
Ah, lovely. And Louise there, right on the shore. Look how deep Bullets with Louise Morton has gone into the shore. She's the first boat of the little bunch on the left as we look at them.
And Protis has just tacked, so that would be interesting to see if they come together with Louise Morton. But we're moving onwards and back to IRC 6 start. And they, likewise, are heading to the mainland first rather than that mark farther down near Gurnard. And they'll be sailing up to Cowes Radio and back to a finish here at the squadron.
So quite an array of boats here in IRC 6. 28 seconds to go before the start. Slightly different. You'll see probably a bit more of a conservative start. Although we've got bow people out on the front here. You can see them calling the hands 5 lengths to the mark, 3 lengths to the mark. You can see the fingers going down as they get closer and closer.
Quite a lot of Sigma 33s. There's one on the right that's coming through. Very popular boat over the years.
This is a very competitive start. Look at them. They're all bunching up at the inside end. Looks like
4589.
4610 has bailed out, unfortunately, with 3 seconds to go.
That's Prospero of Handball.
Definitely some recalls here.
Yeah, that's the boat on the left there, the Sigma.
Okay, so they're going to have to do a big ease, bear away, get back behind the line. And you can see here 6508 tacking just closest to the shore.
Banter.
So it'll be interesting to see how Banter do coming out of here. They look like they're quite nicely powered up. Quite a lot of crew on that boat, so as the breeze builds, they should have plenty of weight out on the rail, keeping them upright, keeping them driving forwards.
4476. Oh, here's Imtish. That's pretty obvious. Look at their nice colourful sails on Imtish.
Great colourful sails.
Yes.
But quite nicely set up here. They look, they look like they're pretty comfortable in the gusty conditions that we're seeing up this beat, which is great. You can see them there, big gust, easing the main, trying to keep the boat level. See the helmsman pushing the helm up, trying to keep the boat moving in the waves as the waves build.
Yes, it's a Hunter Impala, actually.
Okay, excellent. The tide will start to turn closer to the shore. So about 2 hours before high tide, it starts to turn here on Cowes Green. And so we'll start to see a back eddy, and the tide and the sea state will get worse as the day goes on because the wind and the tide will fight each other, causing quite interesting standing waves. We get wonderful standing wave challenges in the Solent.
Oh, so that Hunter Impala is actually doing very well there, just at the top of your screen. There's Shadowfax deciding to go to do a bit of fishing with a line over the back.
Look at the gust, the whole main inside out. In fact, completely eased, just flogging the back of the main.
And they got one reef in already.
So much power they're trying to get rid of there. In fact, they're going to tack back over and head back in towards the island shore to get out of the worst of the tide. But really overpowered Shadowfax, struggling to keep all the sails set at the whole time. That's probably going to be a theme of the day for them because it's going to peak about midday. I think we were talking to Fiona saying they're going to be gusty all afternoon. But as they get down off to the east a little bit more, things should level out for them. Lovely shots. You can see the three boats up here on the left still fighting it out to be closest to the shore. But don't forget, these boats are not going due west here. They're going to have to cross the Solent, cross the tide at some point. And that's absolutely gorgeous. That's an S&S, just been redone, I believe.
Nice finish on that, isn't it? Yes.
Scherzo of Cowes, I believe. Raced them on the Round the Island race. Very competitive, very beautifully finished boat. So they should be very competitive. In fact, won yesterday's racing. So excellent racing from them. Again, they'll do very well upwind because they've got this big, heavy, classic design keel. You can see how much boat is coming out of the water as the boat leans over. But as soon as the wind is behind them, all of that underwater area is going to slow them down because they're going to have
even bigger gusts as well, yes. I should think they've got quite good handicap as well.
They've got a lovely handicap, and I have to say they've got a really beautiful rudder that they put on that boat this year and makes such a difference. So, yeah, really nice day for them they're going to have in front of them.
Well, the Hunter Pilot's just disappeared out of our screen onto the right. They're tight and close into the shore. Don't go too close. There's water being called here by the Sigma.
In fact, it looks like that Sigma.
Yes.
Are they aground? They might have just touched the ground there. And they have made it through the turn, so maybe they're still going. But you can get quite close to this beach right up until the moment that you can't. And I, in fact, saw an ex-boat yesterday who can only have been 2 meters from the beach, slightly misjudge it and touch the bottom. So
that's Stan the boat.
Stan the boat on 4610.
Yes.
But they definitely lost a lot. Look at the gap that's opened up between Stan the boat and 4583, I believe, just in front of them, where they were together on the beach and then tacked apart. And look at the gap that's built between them. And Scherzo in the blue coming across and going to tack in front of them. Now that's really going to hurt Stan the boat because all the dirty air coming off the back of Scherzo is going to wash down and blow onto them.
Okay, we've left those IRC Class 6 to come back for the start with 1 minute to go for the Contessa 32s. And a marvellous Solent class, the Contessa 32s, although they sailed around the world as well. They once again are heading out to the middle of the Solent. Kilburn and Strode Patents, long-winded name for that mark, and down to Cowes Radio and back to the finish. And ever popular, these Contessa 32s. As I say, they've sailed multiple times around the world, but a good family cruising boat as well. Tightly raced here in the Solent.
Great cruising boats, great offshore boats, very seaworthy. They shouldn't have any problems as the breeze gets a bit windier this afternoon, but they're all going to push it. You can see them sailing down the line here. Who's that? 682 in the background, 685 maybe?
Good shot, look at that, lovely.
Great full family crew, looks like that.
It does. Family day, 12 seconds to go, just coming up onto the wind now, tightening up.
They're going to start on port. They're going to do a port tack start. But they're very early.
That's Jemana.
I think that's too early.
Jemana.
That is too early for Jamala. They're going to have to go back. That's such a shame. They were going to have a beautiful Port-Tac start, and they just mistimed it. You'll see them coming back into the left of shot in a second as 7-2-1 in the middle of shot here actually gets a really nice start. They're going to have a long run in on starboard with nothing against them. And 6-8-2 here as well, just going past the back of Jamala.
6-8-2, yep, is Blanco, the white boat, obviously.
They're nicely set up. They're going to come into the beach and tack right on the shore here because they've got a nice hole just to weather of them. You can see the next boat, 701, there's a big gap between the two of them. And so they're going to be able to choose their moment, choose their spot, rather than getting forced out by another boat.
Blanco heeling with the gust there. Blanco is always up in the top chocolates here at Cowes. There's Blanco heading to the shore.
Interestingly, the rest of the fleet choosing to be right out to sea rather than up here on the beach. So there's only 2 boats going for this tidal gain that we're looking at, that we've been talking about for the last couple of starts. The rest of the fleet choosing, it seems, to be more out into the middle of the Solent. You can just see the black jib flapping there, and to the left of them there are 2 boats going upwind, going to the left of picture as we look with the white sails, white hull. They're all in this class, but they are going for a much more offshore choice. They're going to have to fight the tide out there a lot more, but possibly sail less distance, because Blanco's come in, and they've sailed all the way into the shore, and now they've got to sail all the way back out again.
Seems to be that they're all got one reef in on the main. That's 701 and Daxi.
They've got quite small mains, these boats, but big jibs. So a lot of the power comes from the jib as we look at them going upwind. You can see the size of that sail, the dark grey sail here. And that's Blanco, I believe, 701 here. Slightly smaller jib from them, but again, a reef, as you were just saying, trying to balance the power between fore and aft sails. They look really nicely positioned as they go there. Nice powered up. All the crew hanging out over the side of the rail. And Daxi here.
Yeah, certainly paying off, I think, these 2 on the nearer to the coast rather than plugging the tide out in the middle of the Solent.
I mean, that's what we'd expect. We'd expect to get out of the tide, and you can see a couple of the boats behind trying to come in now to correct their error, as it were, to get out of that adverse tide against them. But Andaxi beautifully positioned here to weather. 6-8-2 to leeward is that Blanco, I believe?
Yes, that's Blanco, yeah.
So Andaxi and Blanco going upwind really nicely here. Look at the crews sitting out on the side. Big gust for Andaxi, easing the main traveller.
Yeah, had time to wave to the camera as well. So they're obviously enjoying a family outing there on the Contessa 32s. You don't want to ask, by the way, how much a new Contessa 32 is. All right,
I won't ask.
Don't. Just
they
don't.
They are wonderful boats.
Yes, absolutely. And you can race them and you can cruise them. So, and long time they've been around.
They're going to have a fantastic afternoon over in the Western Solent. They, slightly bigger boats, slightly more comfortable as the wind and the chop bills. So they're going to have a great battle.
Well, actually, even that short distance between these 2, it's paying off for Andaxi because she's nicely positioned now. She will be ahead of Blanco if they tack onto starboard.
And if she can get ahead, she can gas the Blanco behind her. So really nicely positioned.
Okay, that's the Contessa 32s off down to the west. We're into IRC 7 now. And a bit of a mixed bunch here in IRC 7, all sorts of boats. A West Solent 1 design, Contessa 26, the smaller ones. Nordics, an Alacrity 19, a Mini Tunner, an International H boat, a Hunter Formula 1, and 3 Sonatas and an H boat. So
it'll be interesting to see the difference in tactics here because the smaller boats will choose to come inshore. And you can see on the course here, up to Gurnard Ledge, they have to go round this corner. So they are going to... sorry, they come back. No, you're right. They're going across the Solent to Kilburn. So the small boats we would expect to favour the beach probably more than the little boats because it'll make that tide against them will make such a difference on the smaller boats. These are all handicap classes, don't forget. So all boats, different sizes, different designs, can all race together and end up with one result.
I've got a prediction.
Yes?
The biggest one in this will probably get a gun, but no one's really win. They'll
probably,
get round
probably
the
line honours to the big boat.
Yes.
Yeah. So nice little bunch here building up at the squadron end. 4069, Ziggy. Ziggy was winner of yesterday, so small boat winning on corrected yesterday. A little bit more breeze today, though, which might play into the big boat's hands. Couple of Sonatas there at the back. They're going to have a good battle. Look at them side by side as they come into the start line with 12 seconds to go. They're both going to aim for the shoreline, you can see, as boat number
91, Timoa,
8426, the Sonata here, doing a little down.
Individual recall. That could be the Sonata.
I think that
could
might
be
be
the Impala, yes.
I think that might be the Weather Sonata with the orange hull, who's just popping into the middle of shot there. Wasp, I believe, yes. Wasp looks like they are over, and they're going to have to try and come back. Are they going to? Doesn't look like they're going to. Top left of shot. They look like they think they're safe.
Well, they may well find out at the end of the day.
Interesting to see.
They've had a cruise around the Solent.
They're going to have a great battle, though. Look, they're separated by less than a boat length. That's all of 5 meters.
They're going pinching up.
Big tack coming in, and Wasp tacks underneath them. Now, Wasp is unfortunately a little bit too far behind. Not a good tack from them.
No.
Do they think they're going back? No. I think they're going back. I think they're going back.
Yes, they are.
Yep. Wasps worked out that they think they were over the start line, so they're going to have to go all the way back now. That's such a shame for them because they were having a great little battle. We on board with 91.
Yeah, 91 is Timoa, the one that was very close to being over the line.
Timoa, 7th yesterday, did well.
Stella.
Beautiful clinker hull. Look at Timoa with the white lines down the hull, wooden planking. Absolutely gorgeous finish there, and the Sonata just above them. Dick Dastardly.
That's a good name, isn't it?
They do. I can't see. Dick Dastardly 10th yesterday. Probably the windier conditions not going to play into the hands of the smaller boats quite so much. They're going to fall over, be a bit more tender. Look at them powered up here.
Yes.
As we look at Ziggy, you can see them heeling over as the wind comes onto them, easing all the sails. You can see the crew there just getting out onto the windward rail, trying to keep the boat upright, keep it level as they go up. And Ziggy, quite a long way inshore of all the other boats. There is a boat on their hip.
Joey, the Sonata.
But pretty well inshore compared to the rest of their fleet.
So, 4069. 4069 is looking good there. But, as we say, the Sonata just to windward them in a good controlling position. I don't think 4069 can tack yet. That would be tacking in their water, and there wouldn't be enough time or room for the port tacker to give way.
Yeah, so you've got to complete your tack and sail on starboard before you can start calling for other people to get out of your way. You can't just smash the helm over and demand that everyone keeps clear.
Well, they're leading the fleet at the moment out there on the top left of the screen.
And look at the difference in heel angles here at bottom of shot. 2644 heeling over as they get the gust. But the slightly bigger looks like an Impala just in front of them, sitting very comfortably. Just the slightly bigger boat playing into the gusty conditions. Great little fleet, though.
Yes, it is, and an enthusiastic start.
Yeah, really good. Nice to see a good little bunch on the inside edge. There are a couple of bigger boats at the top of shot here. You can see them going upwind. They're favouring the less manoeuvres but one long leg tactic. The downside for them is they are going to be out in the tide. That's going to hurt them as the race goes on. The smaller boats choosing to do all of the work on the shore, tacking back and forwards, that's going to actually yield results at the end, staying out of that adverse tide.
Yeah, well, that's Joey. We're pretty sure Joey is leading the fleet at the moment. Not necessarily on handicap.
In fact, Ziggy actually...
Ziggy
like
starts to win with the yes, it
here,
does. Yeah, they're just going to the tack before they go ashore.
A slight slow tack from them, but nicely set up, and they're well positioned on the water with Joey just on their hip, as we were just seeing Joey top of shot here, tacking over the same as Ziggy. So they're pretty well matched, these two boats. They're going to have a good battle all afternoon.
Good to see, IRC7. We're coming back for Performance Cruiser B, which is slightly bigger boats in a little while, but we're still watching the IRC7 tacking up the shore. The tide, let's have a quick look for the tide. The tide seems to have slackened down a little bit.
So we look up the shore, we can still see that Medallia, which is just off to the right of picture as we look, is still pointing into the west. So the tide, at least offshore a bit, is still coming to the west. But as we said earlier, it turns earlier. There, Medallia at the top of shot, you can see, still pointing off to the left there with the tide slooshing in the middle. So the further offshore you get, the more adverse tides you get, and the closer to the beach you get, the better it gets. It'll either be slack, or about 2 hours before high tide, it'll actually turn on the shore, and you get this little back eddy that slooshes the boats as they go upwind, up tide.
Nice shot of Joey from Itchenor Sailing Club. No reefs for them.
They look really settled, don't they? Very comfortable. The helmsman there actually also having to do all the main sheet work by the looks of it, getting all the weight out onto the crew, maximising that righting moment. Life jackets on, which is great to see.
Yes.
And they've got their spinnaker pre-plumbed in. You can see the pink in the middle of the hatchway here. That's the spinnaker for the downwind leg. They've got that already connected to everything. So as soon as they get to the top mark, they'll kick the hatch open, and bam, spinnaker time all the way down into the Eastern Solent.
Now that Let's look at that. That is the 5-minute gun for the next Performance Cruiser B, and we've got a little time. I wonder if we can attract Fiona, our weather lady. Fiona Campbell might come out and have a little update on what's going on with the wind. We'll see if we can get her to come and predict something. But yes, we have now 4.5 minutes ago before we get to Performance Cruiser B. Again, there's a wide range of different craft here in Performance Cruiser B, from Beneteau First 25.7, which is quite small, right up to an Oceanis 423, 45 Sun Odyssey, so quite big boats, and a Sunfast 32 in there as well. So yes, a good spread. A Sigma 38s, plenty of those. A Mustang Mark II, a Dailer 42 as well in there. But let's now bring in Fiona Campbell. Fiona, to tell us what the weather has been doing.
Well, it's certainly pretty blustery out there. We've had an average of a good 20, 22 knots at times. We've seen the odd gust up to sort of 24, 25, 26, very, very briefly. But yes, certainly quite breezy. No real change. You can see the cloud has barely changed. Everything is just very slowly creeping eastwards. So
we're quite happy with the wind. Plenty of wind, but nice conditions really for racing. You know, a couple of reefs we've seen in some of the cruiser class, but they're all out there, all wearing their life jackets, of course.
Absolutely. Well, Contessa, you go sideways if you don't reef, you know.
Fiona, thanks very much for the update on the weather. We hear that right throughout the day. Anything happening just a bit later on for the afternoon? A bit of sunshine, maybe? A
bit of sunshine, yep. As this cloud starts to break up, that front eases through. It'll, we'll definitely get brighter, certainly by this evening when we're all back ashore.
Thank you very much, Fiona Campbell, for that update on the weather as we, as I say, look along the shoreline from the drone. It's getting a little bit quieter off of the Medina as most of the boats are starting here. We have, as I say, Performance Cruiser B now coming up with 3 minutes to go for their start.
So we've got an interesting couple of starts coming up here, actually. Performance Cruiser B, followed by the Sunsail fleet. So the Sunsail fleet, all one design again, so it should be quite a nice competitive start from them, hopefully. But lots of boats chartered, so a great way of getting into sailing the Sunsail fleet rather than owning the boat yourself, which is great to see.
This is Artemis, a Contessa 33.
I know someone who actually went across the Atlantic in one of those. It's like a long way.
They got a reef in.
And they're ready for a good afternoon. You can see they've got their big jib on. The bowman looks like they're just clipping the pole on here, sorting themselves out on the foredeck. So getting themselves ready for their start with 2 minutes and 10 seconds to go. Fleet sort of just having a look at it at the moment. It's going to be a bit of a cautious one, I think, this start. It's not going to be quite as hectic as some of the others we've seen. Nice, simple race for them. Look, starting at the squadron, sailing out to Powder Burn in the, on the Northland shore there, and then a big zigzag in the Solent and one excellent run. That's going to be a fantastic leg for them, all the way back from the estate agent's buoy in bottom left of shot back to the Royal Yacht Squadron.
Almost down to Yarmouth,
That'll be a lovely leg for them with the wind behind them, but they'll be wind against tide, so it'll be quite a long leg for them, but lots of these boats running symmetrical spinnakers. We were talking a second ago about seeing the bow person clipping the pole on, so they'll be able to pull the pole back and go square with the wind behind them.
That's a Sigma 38 rather than 33. Kindred Spirit.
There's quite a lot of reefs in 7741. They're ready for a windy afternoon. Going to be a comfy boat, though. They've probably got gin and tonic and rum on that boat, I'm sure, so they're well sorted, I bet.
The tide still moving them to the east by looks of things there, doesn't it?
Should still be left to right on our screen as we look at it.
Yeah.
And so from a performance perspective, we're expecting these boats to try and come towards the beach. But don't forget, they're so much bigger than the sports boats we were looking at earlier that they're just not going to do that short tacking. Every time you tack, you end up losing a little bit of ground. So expect these boats to stand off the beach a little bit more. They're going to suck up the adverse tide and just accept that they can't quite get to the beach from a performance perspective. So a few possible port tackers here. There's definitely an advantage if you're brave enough, starting towards the squadron end in the less tide on port. If you can cross the fleet, you'll be absolutely made. If you can't cross the fleet, well, 0 to 0, unfortunately.
Yes, Beneteau First 36.7, that was the blue hull there, Watermark 2. Looking good, coming up to the line with full steam.
But a bit early by the looks of it, with 13 seconds to go. They're powered on, but it looks like you can just see the yellow mark as they bear away. Oh, they're not sure they're going to quite bear away enough. They're going to have to go back with 5 seconds to go, and they've worked it out. Look at them pull the helm down. Oh. Not enough, unfortunately. They didn't pull the helm down enough. Looks like the little Beneteau Grey here in the middle can't quite read the sail number as they come out the back of 5748. Looks like they went back.
That's the Mustang Mark II. Like a big quarter tonner there, isn't it?
Nicely set up as well. Look, they've all got a reef in there. Oh, looks like someone's lost a halyard, unfortunately, trailing out the back of this J109. That's not ideal for them. That's going to be very hard to recover. You can see it blowing in the wind. The best thing they can do here if they're trying to get that back is to run square, and hopefully it'll blow back in towards the boat, but not a wonderful look there. X34 to leeward. They're getting nicely set up here. You can see them easing the main as the gust comes on.
Sea Salt of Hamble.
Again,
powering up,
nicely set up. Look at them, big boat. They're going to take the bit of adverse tide. They're here on port tack, more in the middle of the Solent. You can see the pin end that we were talking about earlier, right at the other end of the line. They're going to go for one long tack and minimize their maneuvers as a big boat. They're in a bit of a bad position here, though, because that J109 that we were just looking at is left of shot. So all that dirty air is going to be blowing down here onto Sea Salt of Hamble. Yeah, so you can see them coming up trying to get out of that dirty air. And this X34 to leeward is also still in that dirty air of that J109. J109 not managed to sheet the main on yet to really get going.
This is at the nearer the front of the fleet, and that is the big Dufour 40 Performance LED 4140.
They're really nicely set up. And look at the crew. They've got the crew all out on the rail. Few boats on the right of shot here. Look, they're starting to take a nibble in towards the shore to get away from the tide that we've talked about. But they're quite a long way back, and they can't go that much further inshore. So the tidal reduction is going to be less. They've got a bit of catching up to do. But really planted here from the first 40.
Yeah, but LED is looking good at the moment. That's the blue hull of the boat that was a little bit early on the start line, the 36.7.
Unfortunately, having to go backwards there, and so they've got a lot of catching up to do. But they're going for a slightly more middle of the fleet position. You can see them standing off a little bit more. They're going to try and simplify their beat a little bit and not do 1,000 manoeuvres up the beat.
Over in the distance, the foreshortening effect of the cameras, we can see some of the larger boats up near the mainland. And
this is the X34. We're back on board with Minx 4.
Yep.
Again, nicely set up. Beautiful looking yacht there, actually. It's great to see so many variations of boat here at Cowswick, being able to sail cruising boats, racing boats, the whole mix.
Yeah, out there enjoying it. On family day here, day 2 of Cowswick 2022.
That's a lovely shot. You can see the difference here between the round-the-world boat, the wide round-the-world boat at the top of shot here, Medallia, and then the more conventional cruising boat coming upwind towards it. It's beautiful. You can still see, though, the main flapping here. They're still overpowered. They're still trying to let some of the power out of the top of the main. So the back edge of it starting to flap. Every time they get a gust, they'll ease that sheet just a little bit.
That's LED still.
As they heel over here, let them get a gust.
All the crew sitting out on the weather rail, quite a lot of them, too, on this 40-footer.
Yeah.
There's our Sigmas.
Kindred Spirits here, and Saint going upwind nicely. Looks like Saint's just got a little bit more speed here. You can see them just starting to edge forwards on Kindred Spirit. As you say, camera foreshortening. There's probably a nice little gap between them. So Kindred Spirit to windward has probably got a little bit of room to be able to bear away and go fast.
It's Sam 8396
is
Sam, just pushing up to win, try and force the other Sigma 38 into attack possibly. Okay, we're coming back to the start line for Sunsails. Sunsail 41, a kind of one design cruiser.
One design cruiser, but a great way to get into sailing. You can see the Magenta Project logo there on the back of that 4102.
4102 is the Magenta Project, yep.
So they've got a good day ahead of them as well. It should be quite close because we're saying sort of one design cruiser, but nice that you can still get out and race them, and it's a great access way into sailing if you don't have your own boat, the Sunsail fleet.
2313 is not part of our class.
And a very similar course to what we were just looking at. You get that long beat out to the Northland shore, then a bit of a zigzag in the middle, and they're going to have a fantastic run all the way back down across the bay there into Cow's squadron for the finish. So they get a nice squadron finish. They'll get a cannon today.
You can see the reef nicely tied on the Magenta Project.
And Hollis, they're also nicely set up. Look at look how tidy they are. They've sorted that reef out really well.
All clear for the Sunsails. Very good. Hollis, as you say, a good start by them.
Really
Port
nice.
tacking start, and they've crossed the fleet.
They've done well there. 4-1-0-7. They're in nicely positioned. They are going to probably favour the fewer manoeuvres tactic here, because these boats are not set up quite so much for hardcore racing. So quick manoeuvres are going to cost you. So you'll see that they probably favour going one or two long legs out across the Solent. They all have to cross the tide, as we were talking about before. So it's a case of trying to be a little bit more inshore, but not right on the beach anymore.
So this is Hollis 2 ahead of Hollis 1, so there'll be a race within a race here for the for these guys who've chartered the boats. And Deloitte, 4103 there, just down to leeward of them, is in a nice position.
4107 just at the bottom of shot here. They're absolutely romping along. Look at them as they're catching up to Deloitte in front of them. Little bit, they're not pointing quite as high though. Look, you can see they're falling into them slightly. So they're gaining that speed by not being quite as high as the boat to leeward.
Yeah, and that means that the starboard tacker probably won't get to them. So, yeah, Deloitte just pushing up.
They're all waving. They're having a great time. That's fantastic to see. They're well set up. They've got a bit of a long beat ahead of them, but as we say, they've got that fantastic long run. That'll be a real highlight for them this afternoon. Long downwind in good pressure in the Solent is something quite special.
Yep, yellow paddleboards. Nothing like advertising as what you are, yellow paddleboarders.
British Virgin Islands. They're quite nicely settled. They've got their crew all hiking out. They're going for the performance, and you can see Raymarine to leeward is getting their crew out as well. So everyone getting settled in now for quite a long leg for them. Get across the Solent. As I say that, the yacht market tax in. They want to be inshore of everyone else. That's probably the tidal factor. And we just saw the rib going out of shot there against the tide still flowing from left to right of screen as we look. So still an advantage to be inshore, but not as much as before.
Well, Deloitte was on starboard there, but I think they've gone astern of Magenta Project and the Hollis. So, yep. Well, there, the Sunsails underway.
They're going to have a great little battle. Look at these boats, three abreast. Now the middle boat here is going to needs to try and get a move on, because otherwise the boat to weather will sail over them, and you'll see that dirty air effect that we've talked about a few times starting to get to the boats behind, which is going to hurt them as they go up this beat.
Yeah, look at them tacking in on starboard. Here's Hollis. Not too sure which Hollis it is, 1 or 2.
They've got their jib trimmer to leeward. He's having a look at the setup, trying to get things right. You can see they're quite high, the jib feet on these boats, so quite forgiving for tacking. The waves don't get caught in it, and when you're tacking over, they're quite short in the jib foot, so you can just flick the boat around.
That's Hollis 2 for 107. It was in the lead pretty much at the start, so quite a few boats heading into the less tide shore.
There's still good gains to be made by going inshore. Magenta Project here a little bit stuck outside, although
Spirit of Ophir
sort of having a bit of a problem. I'm not sure quite what's...
It's a gin. Spirit.
Looks like they're grinding on, though, so they're grinding that jib in. They're trying to get themselves up to speed, but maybe a slow tack from them has allowed the Magenta Project, we just see, to squirt out from round the front of them, get their bow forwards, and they'll be able to tack now when they want to, which will really help them open up. They can tack in and go back towards the shore that we were looking at a minute ago. And here you see boats making their way back up towards the island shore to get out of that worse adverse tide.
Quite slow on a cruising boat when you go through a tack, so the less tacks you do, the better.
Definitely trying to minimise those manoeuvres. That's a beautiful yacht.
Club Cruiser Brew we're back to. Minute to go. Isn't that lovely?
Again, probably quite a mix in Club Cruiser Blue, which will be exciting to see. Lots of different designs from lots of different eras.
That's a Morris 36 Chameleon of Cowes. What a lovely looking boat too. And manoeuvrable. They're off down to Powderburn.
So a longer beat from them.
Yes.
Bit more of a long beat up and a slightly shorter leg. Hampstead Ledge not quite as far for their final run down across the Solent this afternoon.
There she is again. We're going to see a few Spinnaker finishes then here at the finish line.
It's going to be a lovely afternoon on the squadron for Spinnakers screaming down from the Western Solent with a nice building breeze behind them, which will be really good. 4164.
It's Chameleon of Cowes still.
Chameleon of Cowes second yesterday. They had a really good day. So very competitive in this class, which is good. We've got 10 seconds to go. Chameleon of Cowes right on the line here, we can see. And they're going to have a really nice start. They'll wait for the gun and then push the helm over. Ready? And there's the helm.
Line clean.
Nicely done for Camellia Cows. They're not being harried by other boats, so they had time there to get themselves lined up.
Sheet in the main. There's a big gust. And across the line they go. The others giving them a bit of an advantage, I think.
Bit of room to manoeuvre on that start, so they weren't being pushed over, which we've seen in a few other starts. I might read the sail number. There's another beautiful yacht here with the dark sails coming up.
Yeah, it's just a big gust for her. Here's Scandal.
Yesterday's winner. So she's got a bit of advantage. You can see the rudder sticking out here on the windward side. Twin rudder boats today as the breeze builds. Definitely going to have an edge for control. 2 rudders in the water, more control than 1, obviously. So she should do pretty well on that downwind leg because she shouldn't have so many issues as other boats, especially narrow boats. You can see the boat to the left here.
That's Whispering Spirit, the one you were saying looking pretty.
Absolutely gorgeous, but quite long and thin like a cigar. So when the wind is behind, she's going to have a tendency to roll a little bit by comparison to the slightly wider Scandal that's just there in the back right of shot.
Lovely. What a difference in design. Look at the differences. She's
nicely set up there on Scandal, though. Look, they're still going. They're thinking about making a manoeuvre. You can see the crew in the cockpit just sorting out the winch handles, so you expect them to tack over shortly. And I think they're just going to go and hedge their bets and just go inshore of their other boats.
I'm not sure if you're allowed to have both legs over the side of the boat there.
I mean, that's dedicated hiking.
It is,
I'm hoping he's clipped on or holding on to something really very firmly. An absolutely beautiful boat, though. You can see that classic shape that we were talking about, the long stern, but very thin, so she'll roll a bit as the wind builds and the wind comes from behind. She's going to be less stable than the wider boat that we saw with the twin rudders. So quite an interesting design development. Absolutely stunning.
The water pouring out the bulwarks there.
Oh, another wet day for this crew. They're going to get absolutely soaked as the tide turns and the sea state builds. They've all got their oilies on. You can see they've got their life jackets on, which is good. But they're going to need both of those 2 things, I think, this afternoon by the time racing finishes.
How narrow they are.
Absolutely gorgeous. It's like, almost like a radio control boat.
It is, isn't it? Yes, very much so. Just a few boats then in Cruiser Blue. A few deciding not to come out and risk these conditions.
It'll be a challenging afternoon for Cruiser Blue. I think this sort of being the top end of the conditions they'd like to sail in, it's quite challenging, especially as the breeze builds in the Solent. You can end up with quite a lumpy sea state, really push people if you don't sail all the time, don't sail that often. Can really provide some challenging conditions here in the Solent. So not surprised that we've seen a few boats choosing to stay. It was also the Mount Gay Rum party last night, I believe, so that may have contributed to some crew's decision, but you never know.
Oh, there's nothing like getting a bit of fresh air and salt water in your face to wake you up from a Mount Gay party.
That's the best remedy.
I kind of slack the leeches on this.
You can see them trying to depower. This fully powered up. You can see the bottom of the jib foot here flapping away. Fully everything sheeted on, but that main eased. You can see the back edge of this sail really twisting open as they try and let some of the power out of the mainsail here. Fully trying to depower. The helmsman there hanging onto the tiller, trying to keep the boat as level as possible.
Full reef in.
Look pretty comfortable though. Main sheet man in the middle there, not working too hard in the puffs, which is good.
Looking for attack. Here they come.
No guardrails noticeably on that classic there, so nothing to hike against for the crew.
Coming up then to the start here of Club Cruiser White. 1 minute to go for them.
A nice little bunch here, and again, a similar course that we were just looking at, but a much shorter little dogleg between Elephant and Saltmead as we look at the course. So they'll go off to the mainland shore, come back, and then they've got a nice little leg, Saltmead back to the Royal Yacht Squadron, finishing under Spinnaker against the tide as this afternoon kicks in.
Looks like they're all favouring the pin end of the line. I should say the committee boat end of the line, the squadron. Right close to us. There's perhaps one on the far side there, but 30 seconds or less
lining up with seconds to go. This is going to be a nice start here. Who have we got on the inshore end here?
It's a Beneteau.
Probably need to start thinking about sheeting on with 20 seconds to go. They're still quite a long way behind it. Be interesting to see if they try and tack, because you can see the wires from the mast here in front of shot. They're not very far away from the Royal Yacht Squadron, so they're going to tack. Both boats are going to tack here. We see them coming in on the right of screen. They're both going to tack. They're both going to start on port. Excellent
clear.
start from 8225. That's
Yep.
very
Reach
nice.
for the wind. The Sun Odyssey 35. Great start.
Really nice.
On
Look at
port.
the clear air, bit of speed, tacked on the gun. Really nicely done from them. Reach for the wind were 5th yesterday, but that's a really good start to their day 2 at Cowswick.
Yep, all carrying reefs in their mains.
1757 at the back there. Just looking quite powered up. They haven't quite got their crew on the rail yet, so they're still trying to get settled after that start.
That's a pretty rare Sigma 362. Phoenix 2 it is. A Sigma
He
362.
was to 7th yesterday, so hopefully going to capitalise a bit today.
Good start
Nicely
by the
set
cruiser
up, though.
class. Yes.
Although, just looking stalled here at the front, 8224.
Yep.
Looking like they've sort of fallen in out of the groove a little bit. Can't quite get the boat up to speed as the chop builds.
There's Phoenix 2, close up of the Sigma. Bit slack on the halyard, on the jib.
They look nicely comfortable there. They're going to have a nice beat across the Solent. We've still got to get across that tide, as we were talking about earlier. The channel will still be against them, even if it started to turn on the shore. So as they sail off, we can see them.
That's Illusionist at the just to windward
Look
of Reach
at the
for the
difference
wind.
in heel
Yes.
angle between Illusionist and the boat behind them.
they've
There,
just
you
got the
see they
gust.
get into the puff.
2364 is
Emoyini.
Emoyini, so a Super Seal 26.
See the middle crew member working hard there, trying to keep the main sheet on and off. You can see the boom flicking back and forwards, trying to keep the boat level. It's going to be quite tender, a small boat like this. It's going to heel over a lot in the puffs. So
Carrying the flag of the Cruising Association in cruiser white.
They're nicely set up with their safety equipment, which is good. So they're well prepared. You can see those white caps that we were talking about earlier, the tops of the waves just being blown off in the background as the breeze is quite breezy up in the Western Solent. So nice afternoon, challenging. You can see the boats out, though, top of picture here, fighting the tide. Look how slow the little cruiser on the just gone out of shot on the right is going. They're right out in that channel there in the tide. They're in the worst of it, so they're properly fighting wind with tide, but long way for them. It's a nice long beat. Phoenix 2 nicely set up as we look at them. Like
and there's a swan there, yes.
Beautiful swan. Phoenix
and
2 tacking back in. They're going to try and be the closest boat inshore to the island again. So they're just going to keep themselves sorted out. But a good afternoon for all the boats that we've just seen starting. So it looks like they're going to have a really nice race out into the Western Solent.
Yes, so that is, I'm afraid, the end of starts here at the Royal Yacht Squadron, because more boats are being started on committee boats because of the wind here, and the sun is trying to poke its way through, so it's going to warm the crews up as they perhaps dry out a little bit on the downwind runs in the cruisers anyway. Not sure the same will apply for some of those fast sports boats.
I think they're in for a wet afternoon,
They certainly
but a good
are.
fun one.
Absolutely. Cracking conditions here then for day 2 of Cowes Week 2022, presented by Visit Abu Dhabi. Oscar Mead and Steve Ansell are going to sign off for the day. Don't forget to join us at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning for day 3 here at Cowes.